Welcome to the Trenchless Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Sharon Bueno, Managing Editor of Trenchless Technology Magazine. Today on the podcast, we're talking with Rick Rodier, Toro Group Vice President for Construction, Residential, and Contractor Businesses. Today's topic on the podcast is acquisitions. You all may have heard about a little acquisition involving Toro and Charles Machine Works last year. And we'll be talking about how that integration process is going between the two companies. And we'll also get Rick's take on industry acquisitions in general. So welcome, Rick, and I appreciate you participating on today's podcast.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
First off, maybe you can just introduce yourself a little bit. What is your background and history with Toro?
Well, first of all, I started with the company 33 years ago, so I've had fortunate to have a good long run. My early days were spent around operations and manufacturing, more around the operations planning mode. And that was good. It gave me great experience and insight into truly how a manufacturing company operates and thinks, and really the heart of what we do. Then I kind of moved into marketing roles and had various marketing roles for a few years. And then that led into business management. And probably dating back close to 20 years ago, I started managing various businesses for the Toro company. And I entered into the what our compact utility business, construction business in the mid-2000s. So that kind of started my run about 15 years ago, give or take, in the construction side of Toro, as Toro really wanted to branch out and have its brand extend beyond its traditional markets to get into construction. So I've been involved in our construction businesses in one way, shape, or form for 15 years. And then, of course, involved in the CMW acquisition here last year, which really expanded our portfolio, and then took on the leadership of that CMW group along with the Toro branded construction businesses.
Toro announced the acquisition of Charles Machine Works last February. Can you give us just a quick recap of how that took place?
Well, those types of things, especially the size of the acquisition within the industry, frankly, doesn't happen overnight. It probably dates back to a number of years of just getting to know each other, understanding a little bit about each other, how we think and how we operate. It sounds like a strange analogy, but I think sometimes you can consider how a relationship between two people develop over time. You know, there's a get to know you phase, there get the dating phase, the engagement phase. I mean, it takes time. And, do you want to build up some trust? Do you want to build up understanding? And frankly, that's what happened here. It wasn't kind of spur of the moment. It's just the more we talked over a period of time, the more we realized there may be a really good mutual win-win here with this merger. Where we got more concentrated was probably in the late period of time in 2019, or rather 2018, where we really got more serious about it. And then once we did that, really kind of set course to get the acquisition completed by the early part of last year, 2019. So a good long process, but I think a process that provided a good insight for each party, that they knew what they were getting into more or less, and it would be a good fit for both groups.
Can you talk a little bit about how the transition has played out since that time, and how has it been the process of merging the two operations, and how you guys are working together?
Yeah, we've been a company that's done some acquisitions over time, so we have some experience on kind of laying out the platform of how to make this type of thing successful. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again, but through the get to know you process that we talked about earlier, we realize our cultures are very similar. How we think, how we operate, how we value our people, how we value the culture of our group, our companies, was aligned very well. So we knew that would be a great place to have success as it relates to the integration. So first thing we did is we built an integration team consisting of folks from the CMW group, folks from the Toro group, and laid out kind of a plan on activities and functions we wanted to integrate, or at least evaluate, both kind of internal functions and then out-facing functions. We kind of put it all on the table, didn't really leave any stone unturned. We want to look at everything. And that group continues to meet today and continues to find opportunities to integrate. It's been highly successful. I do tell customers and channel partners, think of a big curtain. And if you think about everything that happens in front of the curtain is things that happen out in the marketplace that everyone gets to see. And then there's things behind the curtain that it's kind of in our own family, our own house, things we're kind of being, learning to be more efficient, finding synergies. And so those activities continue to happen today. And if we find it to be very successful, but I'll say again, it really starts with the people, and we've had high level success with the people who've done this. It's not driven at the top. It's not the leaders. It's not myself that are making these things happen day in, day out. It's the people on the integration teams.
Toro and Charles Machine Works, specifically Ditch Witch, are a few of the iconic brands in the construction industry. How do the two complement each other going forward?
Yeah, we're a company that, I wouldn't say we're a company that would, be thought of as a General Mills or Procter & Gamble. We're one of those companies with those types of brands, but we do have multiple brands throughout our company, and we cherish that. We value that, and we knew that was a big part of the integration or acquisition with Charles Machine Works was the brands that they have. Obviously, they have multiple brands that go beyond their iconic brand of Ditch Witch. We value all of them. And they did a good job of really managing their brand as well. And one of the things that we've done from the very beginning is to do everything in our power not to change the strength and power of each of our brands. They have their own identity, their own strength. Unfortunately, with the two big brands that we're talking about here in terms of construction business, you're talking about Ditch Witch and Toro, they really complement each other very well. The customers that are day in and day out doing business with Ditch Witch and same with Toro are not necessarily overlapping. Our channel partners have a tendency to hit different segments of the market, whether you're talking about landscape contractors or landscape construction or underground construction, rehab and redo projects are different line of customers that Toro doesn't necessarily reach as much. So we're able to really kind of make a 1 + 1 = 3 from a brand perspective. And our goal will be to continue to invest in certainly the Toro brand as we've done for 100 years, but to do the same for Ditch Witch and have them continue to complement each other.
Going forward, what are some of the short and long-term plans for the companies?
We'll continue the synergy. One of the things that a little bit of a misnomer about an acquisition is that, you do the heavy lifting in a few weeks or maybe a few months, and then you kind of move on, in some cases, maybe back to where you were. That's not the case. This integration will go on for a long, long time because there's so much opportunity to integrate the companies. And by the way, I should mention that a lot of the integration, people might perceive a lot of the integration is CMW being integrated into Toro. Actually, there's a lot of integration where Toro's being integrated with CMW. We found a lot of things that CMW does very well, a lot of processes, a lot of programs, a lot of management tools that they use within their business to run their business are things that we've migrated over to Toro. Again, a lot of those things behind the curtain, whether it be around manufacturing operations, business management, marketing, some of those things. But so it goes both ways. We'll continue to do that for some time. We'll also look to make investments where we can take things from one or the other that will help grow. And a good example of that might be technologies that we can help each other get stronger. And there are technologies that you might not realize, but technologies that are happening within CMW today that can migrate over to markets like residential, golf, sports fields, things of that nature that are used on products that you may not realize. So we'll kind of a next big wave or phase would be, making sure we're integrating things that not only help make us stronger integrated wise, but also make us stronger from a marketing and business perspective.
Toro, a few years back, kind of dipped its toe into the trenchless market. You started manufacturing directional drill rigs for the HDD market. With CMW brands now under the Toro umbrella kind of becoming your trenchless arm, where do you see the Toro's place within the trenchless industry now?
Yeah, I think, one of the keys there was the fact that we made an effort to get into that market starting in 2012. And if nothing else, you can take from that that we had done a fair amount of work examining the market, and we felt the trenchless market was not only a good market short term, but a good market long term. We got excited by that, and so if nothing else, that kind of sheds light on why we would be interested in a acquisition or merger with CMW. So that kind of got our feet wet, so to speak. So once the due diligence and the integration or the acquisition idea kind of came about with CMW and that opportunity, we didn't go in, kind of unsure. We went in eyes wide open on the market and the market opportunity. So that we felt really good about. And since then, frankly, the Toro brand, as it relates to some of the product categories, grills, large trenchers are two good examples. We backed off the investment on the Toro brand simply because it would dilute our efforts to try to have those two brands in those categories compete against each other. So if anything, what it's allowed us to do is be careful about how we're investing within the businesses and Toro brand today. And in some cases, maybe to divert some of those investments, what would have been in Toro, but to supplement investments already being made by Ditch Witch and add even more to that. I think the winner in all of that, quite frankly, is the marketplace and the customers, because if we can find ways to accelerate category and product innovation beyond what maybe has happened over the last 10 years or so by some of the things we can maybe bring to the table, customers win with that investment. And so we're excited that we're able to do that. So the bottom line is, to your question, we'll see Toro take more of a back seat to the CMW brands as it relates to the trenchless market.
Acquisitions in general in the trenchless industry have seemed to be on the uptick in recent years, specifically in manufacturing and even on the engineering side, without getting into specific deals. Mm-hmm. What impact have these acquisitions had on the trenchless market? And what does it say in general about the trenchless market?
Well, I think it goes back to what I said before. It kind of supports the idea that the market's strong and healthy, and it will be for a long period of time. I don't think anybody that's in the market in any great detail would debate that. There may be debate on where growth will come, the timing of the growth, and so forth, but it's solid and we'll see growth. And anytime you have that, a market of the size of the trenchless industry and growth on the horizon, you're gonna have acquisitions, you're gonna have partnerships, you're gonna have players that will look to expand their portfolio, so to speak. But that said, it's not as easy as that. It obviously it takes two to make it happen. You're looking for a win-win. If it ends up being an acquisition or a partnership that the pendulum swings too far in one direction, it ultimately will have some issues and frankly may fail. And many acquisitions and mergers fail. In fact, the ones that we're talking about that have size and scale have much more challenges being successful. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So I think to answer your question, there will be more in the future, but it just won't happen, sequentially or continuously. It'll have to be a situation where there's equal opportunity for both partners to be successful with it.
I mean, acquisitions in general are cyclical. You see them come in bunches over a few years and it's quiet. Mm-hmm. And then you see them again. What makes an industry, any industry, I guess, ripe for acquisitions like that to occur?
I started with the idea that the strength around the market, and I think that's critical. And I think that's first and foremost. If you don't have future market strength, future market growth potential, you still could see acquisitions, but it'll be done in a different format than it would be for those that are looking for strength and growth. Now, you ask about what, there are trigger points, obviously, along the way. We're in the midst of a pandemic right now, so that potentially could be a trigger point. You have companies, depending upon their size and scale, that might be looking to find capital. They might be looking to find cash in the midst of a pandemic. Even though the market strength continues to be there during the pandemic, different parts of the market will get weaker or could be weaker than other parts. They could be more vulnerable or there could be more of an appetite for acquisition in those areas. So I think there's a lot of factors there. And I will say even those that have a strong appetite before the pandemic for acquisition might be more cautious now, even if they have the resources to do it, because as we all know, there's still a lot of unknowns on the pandemic, how long it'll last, and maybe most importantly, what will life be like on the backside of this, which still leads to a lot of questions. So there are a lot of factors there. Some of them are in play right now. Some might be in play as the market emerges out of the pandemic, but there are a lot of factors, no question about it.
Just how challenging or difficult is it to put together an acquisition under normal circumstances, I guess, and finding that right acquisition partner to have it carried out?
I think you might start a little bit with the background of each of the players involved in an acquisition. Different parties will have different motivations about why they want to do acquisition, and then you throw in a factor of in some cases you might have two public parties trying to come together. You may have a private and a public party trying to come together. Those raise, frankly, different dynamics around the acquisition. There's always different motivations, and ultimately, all companies want to succeed, and they want to see their brands and their businesses succeed, whether they're the acquiree or the acquirer, and that's a big part of it. Frankly, back on the CMW acquisition, this was the CMW business was strong and healthy and vibrant, and one of the top and biggest concerns is to land with a company they felt would give them the best chance to be an iconic brand 100 years from now. They would have the right approach to manage their business, their people, and their brands to do that. And that's not always the case. Different motivations might cause different action. So it does vary a lot, no doubt about it. But usually starts with relationships where they're open and honest dialogue to understand what each party is looking for. And if that truly happens, then that can go a long way. But sometimes that doesn't happen at the beginning, Sharon, and you get on the path a little bit and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I thought we were going to save this, keep this, adjust that, and you find out that's not the plan. Then you realize that there's potential for problems down the road.
Given the state of the industry, the Trenchless industry, do you see more acquisitions happening in the short, like in the next couple of years, still happening, or do you think they're going to level off?
Hard to say. I think, as I said before, there always has to be two willing partners. I think finding, I go back to my analogy on relationships, finding a good partner doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Because we're in a situation we're in right now, it may be more difficult because more companies might be unwilling to consider entering into an acquisition mode when there's still enough uncertainty there. But at the same time, I think, with the growth that there is still out there in the industry, there's a lot of companies that see growth even through the pandemic and maybe thinking this is a good time to find a partner. They need capital. They want to grow. They want to develop their business in the midst of future growth and don't think they can do it alone, and they're looking for opportunities. So I think the bottom line is I think things might be a little slower in the coming months and year, but I don't think that would stop at least dialogue and looking at where there's opportunities to grow and develop.
Finally, before we end the podcast, I can't get away without talking a little bit about what's going on with the COVID pandemic. How has the pandemic affected the Toro CMW operations and the transitions that were taking place?
Yeah, it's been obviously, we're like all the other partners around the Trenchless industry. We've had to find our own path. The Toro company took some steps very early on, even as early as mid-March, to take some steps to assure that we were doing our best to protect our employees. We wanted to make sure everyone was safe, not only within our offices, but within our plants. We did get all of our businesses deemed essential right away. That was pretty critical. We did then take significant steps to allow for social distancing. Working from home, as everybody's doing now, is pretty much across the board in all our offices. We've made significant changes throughout our plants to allow for manufacturing and production to continue. We've had a couple of stops here and there in our plants to be able to do the things I described, but we're really excited about the fact that we've been able to keep all our facilities going. And with a company of our size that has 9,000 employees, the number of cases that we've had throughout our entire system is very minimal. It's less than 50, and that's pretty significant when you think about how big we are and all the geographic locations we've had. So I think that's a testament to Rick Olson, our leader, that he saw the need to take steps early on, not only to around our offices, but around our factories, and to do so in a consistent way with a consistent handbook that all can follow. So generally, we've managed through things pretty well.
Though COVID-19 began unfolding in the United States just as trade show season was getting underway, which is a primary marketing tool for companies to introduce new products to customers and editors and such. I mean, basically, you had ConExpo in the wet show for the Trenchless industry that took place. How has the loss of trade shows so early in the year changed how you are marketing and promoting your new equipment and technology and getting it out in front of people?
Right. Well, this is, there's never a good time for a pandemic, obviously. But, interesting here, we had the IQ show last fall, and, kind of under the wire, we were able to get in the ConExpo show. And we had some pretty good, significant new product introductions as part of those shows. And, these new product introductions within our industry, and as well as I do, Sharon, they are long processes. It's not like a new car where you hit the airways with commercials and within a month you've got, you've saturated the market with messages around a new product. These take a long time in the industry that we're in. So many of these new products started a long time ago. Many of them got out. The messages got out. Shows took place before the pandemic. We have a strong social media presence, and then we've got a strong online presence around the training and the promotion of our new products. And we have actually, in part, been able to consider and get ourselves deemed essential at the beginning, which also then allowed our dealers to be essential. I'm not going to pretend we haven't hit every number of our goal, but we've come close. It's been phenomenal work by our sales folks and our channel partners to take advantage of all the tools available, limited as they may be, to get new products introduced. So all in all, we feel like we're in a pretty good place considering all of that. And I should mention too, our company has done everything they can to balance the need to keep business going, to pay our employees, to keep everything going, and also keep in mind that the number one priority is the safety of our employees. And our company, I'm proud to say, has done a lot in the community as well. We're in Minneapolis. We're a home of many Fortune 500 companies. So there's a lot of companies that are helping with masks and face shields and all kinds of things in our industry. I mean, we're down the block from 3M. So there's a lot of those things we could do. One of the things we did, which I think is interesting, is that the state of Minnesota asked for some help around sourcing. So we basically gave up one of our key sourcing experts that has a lot of experience in international procurement. We gave that person up to the state of Minnesota for an indefinite period of time, and they're one of the lead people to procure all kinds of protection equipment for our healthcare system, which is kind of one of the things you haven't really thought about. Well, how could you help it besides making product? Well, we brought expertise to the table and gotten some shout outs from the governor that, without that person's expertise, we may be, and this happened months ago, so we got in line ahead of time. We got to the right sources to bring masks and other protective equipment to the state of Minnesota that have helped kind of, frankly, curb a lot of the increasing COVID. So then, of course, that's matched with some significant financial contributions Toro's made to Feeding America, the United Way, and other areas where we've made significant financial contributions to help too. So Toro does, I think, done a really nice job of balancing, keeping the business going, keeping our employees healthy, keeping our employees paid, but also helping them do our best around the community.
Well, that wraps up another Trenchless Technology podcast. I want to thank my guest, Rick Rodier with Toro Company, for joining me today. To read more about how the Toro Company and Charles Machine Works integration process is going, check out our cover story for the July issue of Trenchless Technology, which can be found at trenchlesstechnology.com. Until next time, everyone, stay safe and be well.